Hi, welcome to the next talk on culture, foreign policy, and society in times of change. I'm Caroline Giel. It's great that you're here. For the ones who are following my channel, they knew that I'm talking about the war in Ukraine. So I did with a Ukrainian journalist, with a Russian analyst, and my latest talk was with a Belarusian conductor. Today, I will focus on the situation in Poland and on humanitarian aid in Poland. And I'm talking with Bożydar Pająk. He is a journalist and activist from Kraków in Poland. Hi, Bożydar, it's great to see you.
Hey, Karina, thanks for inviting me for this chat. I hope that we will provide some important informations because the situation is really urgent. And I think that it's not about forces, military forces that can do a good job for Ukrainians, but also people and initiatives, civic initiatives that are within the range of everyone that can hear us.
Can you please introduce yourself? I said you're a journalist and activist, but for the ones perhaps who don't follow your channel, you have to give us more insight.
Yes, I'm a journalist. It's called in Poland external production for public television. This is a way of cooperation with television, which means that I got a huge. It's easy for me to do whatever I want. So if I want to produce a reportage about, for example, the blockade on the Belarusian border, I take my camera like it was like a few days ago, and I decided at 6 p.m. that I'm going to the border because the blockade will be held there in a while, and I just went there, and now I consider this issues of Ukrainian war and help support for Ukraine as the most important, and this is why I'm trying to be there where things happen, where things are happening and going on with my camera. So I'm journalist doing reportages for Polish. I like to call it journal activism because I always think and plan to do things that can be necessary, that are a bit that can make an impact on things, and I hope it happens. I'm not sure. I hope. I think that every journalist should think in this way, to make something, to produce content that in a bit changes the world.
You just mentioned the blockade on the border. We will speak about that soon, but perhaps you can describe what happened after the 24th of February, like for how your work has changed, how many times you've been on the border between Poland and Ukraine. And I know that you also visited, even after the outbreak, sometimes Ukraine.
You know, the 24th of February was a very important day for on two levels: on my private level and on the level that that the war is considered by the whole world. For me, it was a big tragedy because I have many friends in Ukraine, because I worked there a few times. I did many reportages in Ukraine, especially after the war in 2014, and I was emotionally connected with Ukraine. So when the war started, I realized that it's not only a threat of Russia. I was also surprised because I considered the invasion, the possibility of invasion, as something that is totally unnecessary, also for Putin. As well as in Ukraine, the same in here, people were really surprised that the invasion did really happen. It was so on the level of my private perception of this event. It was a tragedy because I was thinking about my friends, and I just I started to think about people that were living on the very east of Ukraine. because I knew that there will be problem soon. And 24th showed the world that Russia is a problem for the others. Not only it's not a local war, but it's a problem of their will to build their power, to show the world. It's not about only economical reasons, because Russia was on the good way to make Europe dependent, and they really did the job. They succeeded to make the countries in Europe very dependent of their oil, of their resources, and this is why there is a problem of unity of the countries of Europe now to ban their resources, the import of their resources now in Europe, and this is a problem. So generally, to complete the answer on your question, I started to deeply consider Ukraine as the issue of my reportages when there was war in Donbass, and I'm inside these topics all the time. So
And
I just got back from the border 2 days ago, of Belarusian border.
please tell us about the events on the Belarusian border, what happened there, because I think that in Germany or other European countries, it's not really now what's going on. And perhaps also you can tell a bit about like the most emotional events for you when you were like in Ukraine or at the border.
Yeah, I can. Let's start from the blockade of the border, because it was also phenomenon for me, because I'm following a girl that's her name is Natalia Panchenko, and she's Ukrainian. She works in Warsaw, and this was the main character of my reportage. I went there to show her and show the other people, because it was really a great thing they did, because that was really a small group of people who did something that had really great impact on the decisions, I think, that politicians undertake. Because Natalia said something that was, I think that it's the most important sentence that she told me in the interview. She said, look, what are the politicians in European Union doing? What are they doing today? What will they do tomorrow? I am here now with the people that you can see behind, and today we have stopped the traffic, we have stopped the trucks from European Union to the Belarus and then to Russia. So we made these trucks stuck in the line of 50 kilometers. But I'm asking, what have the European politicians done today? And I was really under impression, because they really did. That was group of, I don't know how many people, maybe 40 people was there at the beginning, or 30. But of course now, during the weekend, when it was easier for people to join the blockade, it was easier for them, so they came, and the group was really, really huge. But at the beginning, really, it was a small group of people who really managed to stop the trade of European Union with Russia, like this, right? Something that was really hard for European Union because of procedure, because of the lack of the unity of the countries, just happened like this. Of course, of course there are other ways probably that this trade was happening, but this was also symbolic thing. This was that information. That was the information for politicians that we are here and we don't agree that the trade is still happening. So it had an impact on the decisions of Polish government. It was noticed. Polish politicians noticed the protest, and they were referring and supporting this protest. So it was really, really a big thing. And I saw that there were people also in my age. There were people younger than me. There were people who still have relatives in Ukraine, and they were talking about the genocide that they experienced they were witnesses sometimes of the genocide. They were neighbors of the people who died. So I didn't meet the person who lost their relatives, but I'm sure that might be someone who was closer to the or someone's relatives were closer to the genocide that happened, for example, in Bucha or in destroyed Mariupol later during the weekend, because the number of people multiplied there. So it was a great experience for me, because I could see that the people are really determined because of their own experience. They had their relatives, the lives of their relatives depends on what's going on with the trade, of course, also in European Union, because if the trade happens, it's going on and it works, Putin is collecting money to invest in his army. So it was really important to show that we don't agree with the trade of European Union and Russia, and it happened. They finally closed the blockade now. Because European Union again enacted the law that Belarusian and Russian trucks will not be allowed to cross the border. So now there is a risk that Polish trucks will be. That I hope that it will not happen, that Polish trucks will that is left when the Russian and Belarusian trucks cannot enter the area of Belarus and Russia from European Union.
Before my next question, I just want to clarify it, because you using also the term of genocide as a journalist. Is this correct, like from your point of view?
Of course, yes, of course. Of course, these murders that happened in Bucha, Irpień, and many other places, villages that maybe we don't know the names yet, or in Mariupol, but this is the part of Russian strategy to make people afraid of the army, because as you can hear from the speech of Putin, it is not the war for economical reasons or for geostrategic. This is geostrategic, of course, issue, but I had that feeling that it's war against people who just want to set up their own independence, right? And Ukrainians has really raised the awareness of their nationality, right? And they say that Putin couldn't do anything better to. This is very risky statement, because it's the war, and I wouldn't like it. I would like it to be different circumstances that it happens, but Putin couldn't do anything better to make Ukrainians more Ukrainian. And now it's happening that Ukrainians know that they deserve own country, and that Russian is an enemy now. So the division between Russia and Ukrainians is rising, is getting more and more clear, and it was a big mistake of Putin, big mistake really. But it was kind of revenge, as we could hear that with his face, with his angry face, he was talking that Ukrainians don't deserve their own country, that it's not the nation doesn't. He was like undermining the right of Ukrainians to have their own nation, right, independent nation. This was really that was evil in its purest form. This is why it's so we are frightened by the politics of Putin, because the war in Ukraine was something that cannot be justified in any reasonable ways. It just, these are emotions, right? Emotions, ambitions of a sick person.
Poland until now received the largest number of refugees, like from Ukraine, over 2.5 million people already, but of course also the other neighboring countries. Can you explain us why? I mean, it's obvious that it's a neighboring country, so most of the people try to flee, even because of the connections via train, cars to Poland. But we saw a tremendous solidarity by Polish people in every Polish town. How do you explain this?
I think that people in Poland understood that it's not only the threat for Ukraine, it's not the threat. It turned out to be a real risk. The risk turned out to be a real tragedy for Ukrainians. But I think that Poles started to be afraid of the war in Poland, and this is why they were able to rise more empathy towards Ukrainians. And of course, it's because we are closer to each other. When there was war in Syria, we had a problem with the sympathy towards refugees. But now the situation's changed completely. We have, as you said, now it's more than 2 million of Ukrainians. But before the war, we have also received or we have welcomed like more than million of Ukrainians who came here after 2014 just for economical reasons, to live here, to earn money, because they couldn't live in the east of Ukraine, and they were afraid to live there, and there was a problem to get a job in Ukraine, so they migrated to Poland. So we were experienced by the migration from Ukraine, and so we are a bit, maybe I can say that we were a bit prepared for this next 2 millions, more than 2 millions of people. And I think that it was easier for us to consider them as someone who is in need than Syrians, because the war is right next to us, and we are afraid that Russia will come. I don't believe that that the war will be expanded to Europe, because I think that Putin is scared of NATO and of Western countries. I can't understand this threat of Russia and European countries that are still afraid to provide direct military help with their forces. I think that it's a big mistake of European countries, because if Ukraine will have problems, I'm afraid to use the word will lose, but if Ukraine have problems with Russians now in the east, and Russians will settle there, it will be a real risk for Poland, because Russia will rise their they will just confirm that they have enough power to go further. The awareness of their power is something that has to be stopped, because the only thing that stops Russia is military power, nothing else. They are not afraid of sanctions, because Putin has nothing to lose. He's already finished. Now he's fighting for his life, for his power. If he's lost, he will have a lot of problems also as a murderer of someone responsible for genocide.
Are you, in a way, also as a journalist, disappointed by Western countries, especially, let's say, Germany, that we didn't listen to the warnings by neighboring countries like Poland or the Baltic states, that they warned us all the time not to strengthen the ties, for example, in economic terms with Russia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. In close history, we had examples that Russia is still interested in invading country and invading countries. That should be a warning for Western countries not to get not to be so dependent on Russian resources. But European Union and Western countries thought that Putin can be just another political player of the European scene, and maybe the business or the deals will make him would make him, how to call it in English, I would say, average partner, right? But it turned out that it doesn't happen like this. It's too late. But I think that it's, you know, the positive, because we can the war in Ukraine is like the division to, sorry for simplifying it, but to good and bad, right? Evil and the better part of the war. Nothing. I think that it's very clear. This war shows in very clear way where is the evil, like countries that got in the very dependent on the resources, just they had this positive attitude to make war peaceful by doing business with Russia, but it turned out to be a mistake. But there was we need time. It turned out that we needed time to understand it, but it was a mistake finally. Huge mistake that made people lose their lives now, and they're still losing.
Can you reflect a little bit more about the current situation in Poland? Because as we know, when we discuss Polish issues, many German commentators, journalists. We spoke about the protests going on in Poland concerning the abortion law or the changes in the courts. So the more, let's call them, problematic developments of Polish politics in recent years under the ruling party PiS. Do you think this changed everything what happened now? This changed the perception of Poland and what's happening inside Poland today? We're speaking on a quite, let's call it historical day, 10th of April, so 12 years ago. The plane with the former president crashed, so it's also, let's say, a historic day for worsening the Polish-Russian relations. What do you think about this?
I think that we have, as you know, Russia was trying to support populists in many countries of the world, and we also have a problem with populism in here. But the thing that that the war impacted our politics also. And I think that it made it more clear that where's the enemy. So all these things that you were talking about the rule of law, etc. I think I got that feeling that many people just forget about this issue, because now we got this enemy, and Poland is is playing a great role now to remind the other countries where's the enemy. And I think that of course we cannot forget about the other issues, but the priority is now to survive. We are heading. I hope we are not heading the war in Europe. We have already the war on our continent, but I hope the war will just be limited now to these actions on the east of Ukraine, and it will be finished. I hope so. but now we need the Europe to be united very firmly, and this is the priority, to see the enemy. And I think that the enemy that is set on Russia set the politics of European countries, and it helped us somehow in these bad circumstances to understand that we have to cooperate with the European Union and NATO, and there is no other way than to be with other countries, because countries that are united, that are economically joined, they are more safe. Because you know, we had always as Poles problem to consider history, politics as something very emotional, that someone should help us because it's the proper way that world should function, and the justice and big values. But as we all know, the politics are based on economical reasons in majority, as we can see in your country, for example, in Germany, that this is why Germany is, I would have to check the word, the actions of supporting in military ways Ukraine is restrained a bit by this threat of economical effects of this war. And now and we had the problem with understanding that. We're Poland always think in this value way of thinking, that something should happen because it's just morally better. And if we consider the whole happenings, the whole politics of Russia from 2014, and we see that they supported populists, they were rising this anti-vaccinations movements, all these populistic far-right movements. We can see the only thing that gather Europe and make us safer is to make very strong connections between United States and among European countries, because then each of the countries can feel safer, because no one can lose their business, right? We can see that the business with Russia was a big problem, but the business among European countries make the union stronger, because all the countries are dependent of the others. And I think that that's the clue that we can gain from this whole situation.
I will not ask about the future, what you think, how everything will continue, because I think everyone has the impression that you cannot predict what's happening next day. But I mean,
I can tell you what I'm afraid of.
Yeah,
I'm very afraid of the way they will make this war the same as the previous war in Donbass, that they will settle in the east of Ukraine, and their aim will be to all the time rise the chaos, to provide the fuel for the chaos in Ukraine, because Putin hates Ukrainians as a nation. And they know that if Ukraine will be in Western structures, it will be his own defeat to rebuild this imperial dream, right? So I'm afraid of the way they were doing the war in Donbass before, because you know there were day by day soldiers died there. Media weren't talking about it very much, because people in Europe got used to the war in Ukraine. So the war a bit disappeared after some time, and people started thinking about the pandemic times, all these things. And I'm afraid that this might happen. So the most important thing is to provide weapons, to provide all the means that will be necessary for Ukraine to win the war. Russians must be stopped, and the borders should be in the same place as before 2014. I know that the Crimea issue is very hard to consider, because Russia considers Crimea as its own land already, and this is why it's a big threat when Putin talks about nuclear power, nuclear weapons, because they said that.
It's difficult to ask that question, but you continued and said, I'm afraid of. Are you afraid of a third world war? I mean, full scale, not only economically, where we're already in, and of course, in other terms like information war.
I'm afraid more of the chaos. I'm afraid more of the chaos they can do in Ukraine. I think that there is no chance of Russian army in the battlefield with European and American soldiers. So NATO and Europe would win the war, but of course with many casualties probably. It's very hard to predict any future about the war, third war, in big scale war. But I'm sure that the priority is to win the war now in this form, and wait a second, and to push out the forces behind the borders from before 2014. This is the most important. Russia cannot win this war because they will be empowered for next steps. If we don't win the war now in Ukraine, Russia will be ready. They will rebuild their forces and will attack again. They will not stop. They are determined, and the government has strong support from Russian nation. It's not like that it's only Putin and few people in their government, and good Russians don't know what's going on. Of course, they live in different world, different mentality, and in this propaganda. But the nation, according to the opinion polls, would support also invasion of Poland. So it's very hard situation because of that. Putin's support is rising in Russia. So this is why we have to win the war, so that they understand that Western military powers it's not a joke, because now they are laughing, right? Maybe not from they lose in Ukraine, but as long we are weak as in military, meaning I mean the Western countries, Putin will go further. Will try to go further, at least.
My last question: you said at the very beginning that you want to make an impact as journalists. So what will be your next stories you want to cover? How you will continue to help?
Thank you for the question, because it really I'm in my nearest plans. I would love to get involved again in this activities that means helping Ukrainian people, but in Ukraine. I think that there are many people who help in here, but I would like to try to make a reportage about the genocide and show people talking about the brutality of Russians, so that it's registered in the mentality of Europeans and Polish people generally, because I reach the Polish viewers, receivers of the television message, and I think this would be important to do, so that people don't forget about it.
When are you planning to go back to the border or to Ukraine?
Now I know that I have to go back to my editing project, because I have to finish the reportage about the border, and then I'll think about it. Things are very spontaneous in reporters' life. So the same as with the Belarusian border. As I said before, I decided to go there at 6 because Previously, I knew about the activities of Natalia Panchenko, but I saw her movie, and I thought, yes, this is the time. I knew about this issue, and I decided before that when there will be a chance to go there again and show this great job of this group of people, I have to do it. So I went to the northern east. I slept on the way, and then in the morning I was there on the border in the very morning at 8:30. So I think that it will be as spontaneous as this Belarusian issue next time. So keep your fingers crossed that I'll be efficient enough to create and produce this message and make people not forget about what Russia's troops has done to Ukrainian nation.
Bożydar, thank you so much for the insights from Poland, and thank you for your passionate work. Perhaps I can also link some of your pieces here on the channel. I hope that we see us soon in Kraków or at the border, or as you said last time, in Kiev, in the free Kiev, where
I hope so.
The greatest coffee ever.
You know, I smiled because when the war began, I don't know if it wasn't too early, but I started to dream about the moment that I will go there again in Kiev and sit with my friends and say, finally it's finished, right? And we can sit in free Kiev. I hope it will happen, and I hope that victory is ahead. Also, I hope that the solidarity with other Western countries will be there, and so Germany, we're holding our fingers crossed for your politicians also. This is also for our safety. The war in Ukraine has to be stopped.
Thank you so much, and all the best.
Dziękuję bardzo, pozdrowienia.